Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jocelyn Wyatt.
I'm Pam Scott.
And we are here today for a workshop on how communities in informal urban settlements can be part of the solution. And before we start, we are going to watch a quick video.
The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 1 billion people on the planet live in unplanned settlements like the favelas in the cities of Brazil. In Rio de Janeiro alone, it is estimated that 1.4 million people live in favelas, making up almost a quarter of Rio's total population. Beyond Brazil, urban unplanned settlements are symptoms of rapidly growing cities in developing countries. According to The Economist, over 40% of Pakistan's urban population lives in unplanned settlements as of 2007. Often unrecognized by local governments for being illegitimate and illegal, unplanned settlements suffer from lack of access to health care and income-generating opportunities, high levels of crime, and poor access to public services like proper roads, sanitation, and electricity. Additionally, residents of these settlements often don't have rights to their land or homes in the eyes of the government. In Kibera, one of the largest urban unplanned settlements in Kenya, the employment rate is estimated at 50%, 10% higher than that of the country as a whole. Despite these issues, with an estimated population of 1 billion, unlocking the economic and human potential of these communities could have a powerful and positive effect on the world's population as a whole. According to Data Popular, Rio's favelas alone have an economy valued at $6 billion US, and overall, Brazil's favelas have an economy valued at $25.8 billion US. As of 2011, 56% of favela residents were considered middle class. Thus, residents of favelas represent consumers with significant purchasing power. By finding ways to work with local governments to increase land rights for residents, communities could use that collateral for loans to start businesses or improve their property. Using innovative and modern city planning techniques, as well as expanding access to basic services like healthcare, education, job training, and open communal spaces, this could help crack global inequalities between the rich and the poor. With these resources, economic opportunity could improve and help curb unemployment rates, thus supporting those living in urban unplanned settlements to improve their lives and their communities. How can we help communities in urban unplanned settlements to be a part of their own solution for a healthier, more prosperous future?
So this is a different type of session. For any of you who were in yesterday's design lab, you know that this is a design session where you are going to be designing in small groups at your tables. This is an opportunity in this 90-minute session for you to be inspired, for you to generate new ideas around urban settlements and new solutions for how we might address some of their challenges, to have the opportunity to develop one idea further and hopefully take it forward in your work or by supporting the work of others. An opportunity for you to get to know other people in the room and share ideas with each other so that you can connect a bit more deeply with people, and a chance to discuss next steps and how we're going to take some of these new concepts forward. So typically in a human-centered design process, which is the work that Pam and I do, at this point we would go out into the field and talk to people. We would observe their situation. We would ask them their needs. We would get steeped in the challenges that their communities face. Unfortunately, we're in the Sheraton in New York, and we only have 90 minutes. So we're going to take a different approach, which is that we're going to hear from a couple experts, people that work in Pakistan and work to and around around the world to really address challenges related to urban settlements. And so I'd like to welcome to the stage two of our speakers. While they're speaking, I just ask you to listen to the needs and the desires of the people that we're designing for. This, again, is going to be the basis for the design work that we do in the rest of the session that follows. Listen for new solutions that they mention, whether those are technologies or services, products or systems. Listen to new business models that they're mentioning and start thinking about how we might create sustainable solutions and figuring out how we can make the markets work for the customers in these communities. So with that, I'd like to welcome to the stage Alfredo Brillembourg, the founding partner of Urban Think Tank, and Jawad Aslam, the founder and CEO of Ansaar Management Company.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to title this beginning part introduction, slum lifting. We heard of 1 billion people living in slums. That number is exponentially growing, as they've already predicted in the next 10 years. The rate of slum dwellers or urban population will duplicate, and there'll probably be about 2 billion slum dwellers in 10 years. So that's a huge market. The whole global south, most of the urban population will be in slums. So if we think about it, 2% of the globe is actually occupied by urbanization. And you know that about 50% of the population live in cities now and consume 75% of the energy and produce 80% of the carbon emissions. So this is a huge, huge topic. But I'll tell you how I got involved with my company, Urban Think Tank, in doing solutions for slums. We were kidnapped in Caracas. And my partner was brought up into a slum called Cota 905. There he was held for about 10 hours, and he got to know actually his captors, so a little bit Stockholm syndrome, right? And after he was released that evening, the people who had kidnapped him said, "We better take you down to a taxi because it's very dangerous here." So, but we went back. We went back to Cota 905 because he had recognized where he was, and we met some of the community leaders, and we wanted to know what was going on. So during the day, we noticed that there were tons of kids playing on the street, basketball and soccer. So we formed an NGO called Caracas Think Tank initially, and we gave them soccer goals and basketballs and basketball nets to create a little field. But at night, that plaza was a shooting gallery. And every year when we went to make these tournaments, every year one kid had been killed. So it's quite dramatic. Then we've refocused our whole practice of architecture towards looking for solutions that we call slum lifting, right? The challenges are the rights to infrastructure, the right to culture and education, the rights to sports, the right to health, the right to housing, and the right to the city, obviously, because they need integrated infrastructure. Now, how are we going to do it? Well, we can't do it out of, with the same solutions, opening up roads. You open up roads in these hillside communities, and you're going to displace 30, 40% of the population, breaking up communities. So we need new technologies, new ideas. So, for instance, we introduced a cable car in Caracas and created, it took us 10 years to execute with Doppelmayr as our partner. So we would look for industry partners, right? They only thought that they would do ski slopes. But when we brought them down into Caracas, they realized it's a huge market to do cable cars in urban settlements, informal settlements. It's built, it's running, it's working, 2.3 kilometers, and with 5 stations. Fantastic. But not only the cable cars, but then we had to redesign the cabins. How could it bring up water? How could we bring down the trash? How could we bring those cabins, that technology, to market? Because if we're not going to market, we're not getting major scaling up, we're not doing anything at all. But like that, I can tell you a story about dry toilets. Because you can get water up hills very easily, but how do you get water down hills? Are you going to put in all the sewage lines? No, you can't. It's impossible. There's no money in the world to be able to put in roads, sewage, electricity everywhere. So our idea is off the grid. And to talk about off-the-grid solutions, I've got Andy Bolnick here from Cape Town. Her NGO's called Ikailami. She's in the back. Andy, wave so we can see you. Andy invented something called blocking out, which is taking the flats, the Cape Town flats, the informal shacks in Cape Town, which the government can never relocate, yet keeps them in a state of temporariness. That's why those shacks cannot be brick or anything. So Andy invented, why don't we just block them out? Which means with the community, empowering the community, they shift and move the shacks a little bit. They refit the shacks with new tin, a little bit thicker gauge, and then she opens up roads for future infrastructure to come in. But we came up this summer with the idea of an Empower shack, a solar shack. We said, who can pay for the upgrading of these shacks? Who can pay for this infrastructure? Well, maybe the energy companies can. So you know the next revolution in wireless is energy, right? So the solar, so what we came up with the idea, these flats are incredible, and Cape Town has incredible solar exposure, that we would create a solar field. So now the new solar shack will come refitted with its solar roof. It uses only 1/10 of the electricity. The rest goes back into the grid. It produces a rent and actually empowers the people with some income, right? And it's up to them to take care of the solar panels on the roof from the sand and from stealing, right? So they only get the rent if they take care of their panel, right? So these are some of the key things, and what we want you to do today is to think about doing a booster pack. How can we put a booster pack in these informal settlements? But we're going to have to do it off the grid. We're going to have to find solutions that are off the grid with new technology. So technology, we got to do the leapfrogging. That's why maybe people were not thinking about redesigning the toilet, right? Bill Gates did that initiative. Well, yes, we need dry toilets. We need recycling toilets that recycle water, still work as a flush toilet, but do not plug into the system. We need all these new ideas because we have to bring the best to the worst, because it's only that way. And the future will look a lot like Star Wars. It'll look a lot like Luke Skywalker, who's sitting there with his space outfit, with R2-D2 and his spaceship out there, but he's coming out of a mud hut. Some kind of vernacular building that is actually sustainable, and that's what the future will look like. It'll look like high technology and vernacular solutions. Thank you very much.
So do I get his 1 minute? All right. So my name is Jawad Aslam. I was wondering why I was being invited to speak at CGI on this session, and I met Alfredo in the morning. He said he's been all over the world except in Pakistan. So I'm here to provide that counterbalance. What I'm going to do is try to provide some context of Pakistan, and then our focus is also on housing. Pakistan is a tough place to work in. There's about 190 million people that live there, and there's a housing shortage of about 7 million. And there's about 60% of the population that's vying for 1% of the supply. So in that situation, there's two things you can do. One is you try to increase the supply, which is what my company does. We provide affordable housing solutions in new communities, or you stop the growth, or you address some of the slums and squatter settlements that are there. So in the second scenario, of the squatter slums that are, or squatter settlements that we find in Pakistan, we have found some unique solutions that have been provided. One is a progressive policy that the government did in the provincial government of Sindh. What they did is they realized that, look, we were supposed to address this problem on the front end with urbanization. We were not able to do that. Now we might as well accept the reality and manage the situation. So the first thing they did, which is a little bit controversial, but they said wherever there is state land, we're going to give them, the tenants there, or the land grabbers there, or the residents there, land rights. So they have rights to their properties in a one-window operation, which is important. What that led to, and what they also did was they also said we're going to have to charge a price for this, which is nominal, but it's going to go towards civil infrastructure and so forth. Then they engaged the CBOs, the community-based organizations, and the NGOs to come in and play the role for the social services, which is health and education and so forth. The result was basically that you found that automatically with the land tenure or the security of the land there and the plots for the residents, they automatically started investing in their homes. So whereas before they were shacks, now they would start putting plaster on it, somebody would be painting it and so forth. And the other thing that you would find is that this low-income community would be able to solve all of their problems on their own. And so I'll come back to this in a second, but talking about the global context, going a little broader here, for low-income housing, you find two types of solutions. The first solution is the kind that doesn't work, and the other solution is the kind that sort of works, right? The one that doesn't work, I'll give you an example, is that you have high-rise, you have a squatter settlement, and the government comes in and says, we're going to tell you guys to all move out of the city, we're going to build high-rises here, and you move back in. One of the reasons why it doesn't work is because the way that squatter settlements are set up is that they have workspace, they have social space, they have all kinds of spaces, of which one of those spaces is their living space. And when they transfer into high-rises, they get a pigeonhole of 400 square feet where they have to do everything. So acceptability doesn't exist there. On the other side, what you find is that you have situations in South America and Latin America where there has been a leader, like the church has been active in a lot of solutions, and they bring all the stakeholders together to provide a solution in confidence, or bringing the residents in confidence. So what I want to share with you is something that I sincerely believe, that several years back I was moved from Baltimore to Pakistan, and I ended up living in one of these low-income communities. And it's the foundations of that for 1 year living there that I realized what the power of the people are that are living there and where the solution really lies. And the example I want to give just sort of very quickly is that we decided to establish a mosque in one of the communities. And it was the month of Ramadan, fasting. It was the last 10 days, and people were very hyped up and worshiping all night. So there was a night vigil. And being the religious guy I am, I snuck out and I went home to go to sleep. And 2 a.m. in the morning, somebody rushes into my house and said, you need to come to the mosque right now. There's a fight going on over there. So I figured, okay, there's a little scuffle or whatever, and let's go see what's happening. As I approached the mosque, there is 30 men in full rage, completely ready to beat each other up. And one of the guys, and I didn't realize what was happening because I was still half asleep, until I saw one guy who took a bat out and full swing connected to somebody else's legs. And I realized, holy crap, I was like, now I'm back in Baltimore, Yeah, but I realized that this is a real serious issue, and I need to do something about it. So we managed to sort of cool everybody down and said, okay, come back tomorrow and let's establish a committee for the mosque. This was a Sunni issue. So if we understand the Islamic context, Sunni, Shia, these were only Sunni Muslims. And it was an intra-Sunni issue here. So when we sat down in the committee, I said, let me try to figure out a way of how we can basically just get the Sunnis to live together. I said, if we can achieve this, this is success. When I walked in there, we started talking. One of the Sunnis said, we're living in this community, there's about 500 homes here. If there's Shias living in this community, why can they not be a part of the committee in the mosque? They're also residents, they also have as much right to the community and to the community mosque. Something which I had never thought of before in my life, these guys are proposing. It does not exist. You don't find Sunni Shia mosques in this world. You find a Sunni mosque and you have a specific kind of Sunni mosque, or a Shia mosque and so forth. Now here's a community, average income is $100 per month, and they're saying, we want to just live as a community together. We don't care about the politics and so forth. 8 months later, weekly meetings with the committee and working through the issue, somebody insulted the Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him. And as you all know, that's a very sensitive issue.
1 minute.
And what happened was all hell broke loose. And they were going to murder him, they were going to put his shop on fire and so forth. We held a meeting, again, 24 hours later. The community came together, there were 60 people there. They debated the issue of what happened, how it happened for 60 minutes. And when they came out, everything was fine. They forgave the person asked forgiveness who had violated the trust or dignity of the Prophet, and everybody else was happy. As they were walking out, one of the guys said, "You know what? This is really amazing. We should go out and distribute sweets." What that means, and I say in the context here, is let's go all have a beer. It was that sort of a sense of happiness that they had. So what I believe in this is that residents of these communities have the capacity and the will to do whatever it takes to solve their problems, as long as there's a conducive environment. Thank you.
Maybe I'll add is that solutions for the poor are good for the globe.
Thank you, you guys. That was wonderful. Great.
Thank you.
So now we're going to unpack some of the expertise that is in the room other than these two gentlemen. And we're going to have you do that by introducing yourself to your table mates. Now, if you're at a table of less than 4 people, you are at a great disadvantage for this brainstorming session. So we've got some room at this table over here if some people want to join up. So what you're going to do is you're going to introduce yourselves, and you're going to share the role at your organization and any specific expertise or experience that you have that's relevant to today's challenge. And the trick is you've got 6 minutes to do this. So it's a bit of a speed round. So headlines only. Please do introduce yourself to your table mates. Thank you.
You met Pam in person.
Hi.
Alex.
Nice to meet you too.
Good job kicking off. What about the
So what do we do?
This is why we put speakers on content. Not we can have you do the whole thing. The thing is, and also I think actually even the attendance will
Hi, I'm Jocelyn, Wyatt.
Thanks for putting this all together. So what is going to happen here? They're going to come up with different ideas.
Absolutely.
Then are they going to present them? So they're going to work on this for how long?
So they're going to have 6 minutes to tackle 3 different challenges. So 6 minutes for one, 6 minutes will work like that. And then they'll vote on the idea that they want to spend more time on. They'll spend 12 minutes working on that idea a bit further, probably collapsing some ideas into one big idea, and then they'll present it to the rest.
That's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Interesting process, but I think I'm going to cut out.
Oh, totally
Just because
understand.
this was great.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. And you guys didn't have the mayor's wheel. That would
We
have
were
been
just saying the same.
Yeah.
Really would have been.
So the people here, they're from different cities around.
Yeah, well, this is why we didn't do that
People
first.
are attending the conference, so if whoever was drawn to this particular topic, I would imagine we do have fairly good representation from around the world. So yesterday we did Women in Mobile Technology, and we. These are.
What is the curiosity?
Curious
Curious.
So, fun enough design thinking is all about understanding the getting more insight into what they actually need and want to, and that's what we specialize in. So what's going to I need to give a 2-minute warning. And you have 2 more minutes.
So in some ways you're facilitators for the design process? And you're mostly hired by architects or by end users?
These guys, Aslam Board and they specialize in owning the social sector.
Right.
So they're working on things like toilet installations and water municipalities. I work a lot in social sector as well as corporate. So I do work with IT, helping them understand female athletes, engineers, helping them understand what performance actually means to people, car performance, that makes sense.
Are you based in San Francisco?
I am, yeah.
Well, that's where I'm headed tomorrow.
Hey, nice, nice city.
And I go down to the Monterey Design Conference.
Oh, fantastic. I'm not going.
It's run by the California chapter of the AAA. They do it every year. I know. As long as the weather's nice, it should be
Oh, it
great.
should be great. September's just perfect. All right.
So I'll give you a card.
Oh. Thank you.
Did you have a card?
Yes, I do.
Want me to say one more minute for that?
You want to do the rest? We're so happy.
I think you're probably better at it than I ever would be.
There you go.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. One would have missed that.
And I was thinking, Alex, we're getting you guys full passes.
Oh, wow.
And so the funds are being paid on the success of the sport.
Very well represented.
Well, housing would be.
All righty, and we will be moving on. So I know we could continue talking at the tables about each other. You will have more time to talk, and I'm going to have that be focused on brainstorming. So here's what we're going to do next. Before we get into the ideation section, we're going to talk about some ground rules that will make your time together more productive. And the first one is about being open-minded to the thinking that's going to be shared at your tables. No one likes to have their ideas shut down. And this is also about trying to disable that filter that causes you not to say the idea or share the idea that you have on your mind. Let it out. Next, we want to make sure that we're encouraging wild, big, audacious thinking, because sometimes this is where the most powerful solutions come from. We also want to make sure that we're adding to each other's ideas, we're furthering them, we're pushing them, so be sure to really concentrate on someone's idea and take it even further. We are big believers that quality often comes from quantity. So the more ideas you have, the more likely some of them are going to be quite exceptional. This also means this isn't about perfecting ideas. This is about getting them out, getting a lot of ideas on the table. You will have some time later to work on them further. One conversation at a time, and stay focused on the topic. And last but not least, aim to be visual. A lot of times ideas are best expressed through simple sketches. I don't expect that we'll have great artistic renderings, don't worry about that. And we're also going to encourage some prototyping, and I'll show you some examples of that later. So here is a little summary. You also have a couple people from CGI who are going to be coming around to your tables, just checking on you. They can answer some questions and make sure your conversations are moving along and being productive. You have some materials at your table. Probably the two most important things is you've got some light blue sticky pads and you've got some Sharpie markers. One idea per sticky. And you're going to populate this big white mat you have on your table. You are going to cover that with ideas. There should be very little white space left after this brainstorming session has ended. Right? Okay. So moving on to the brainstorm.
All right, so the first question is, how might we work together to enhance informal settlements? So as you're brainstorming, consider collaborating with settlement communities and how we might do that. Consider providing access to basic service. Consider building of communities and consider land rights. So you have 7 minutes at your table. Everyone should now have a pad of Post-its and a Sharpie in their hand. And get to it. Feel free to ask us if you have any questions. 1 more minute.
So I say collective ownership, a co-op. You can take 10 houses and group them together and you give them a solidity of a voice. Co-op.
Unfortunately, so there's work in the corner. Would really love to hear the outcomes or the output.
Sure.
How can I get like, are you going to put this together in next steps, or what's the?
Yeah, I don't know what CG. I don't know if they're planning to. I mean, if you can you stay or you can't stay?
No, I've got a meeting downtown.
Okay.
See the stock exchange. So I.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one.
Yeah. Let me at least give you a call.
Yeah, sure. And I just have to announce the next one, but then I'm happy to give you my card if you want. I'll be done in like 20 seconds. Cool. Thanks. All right, we're going to move on to the second question. Before we do, can all of you hold up your mats with the ideas? Hold them up proudly. Show everyone else how many ideas your group has come up with. This is a process where quantity really does equal quality. The more ideas you have now, the easier it's going to be to choose one later. So nice work, everyone. I would love to see a few more drawings, stick figures, arrows, circles, diagrams. Get a little bit more creative in terms of how you express those ideas. I promise it will help. Drawings really do help simplify or explain complex ideas. So the second question, which you'll have 7 minutes for again, is how might the private sector create new offerings that benefit urban communities? So private sector involvement with urban communities. So consider different products that they could offer, different services or programs that could be created and implemented by the private sector.
So sorry.
Oh, no, don't worry.
Yes. I unfortunately
There
have
you
to
go.
take off, but I'm really interested to hear some of the ideas that come out.
Oh, great. So what type of work do you guys do?
So, we're a software company that builds data analysis software, and
me was just incredible. Really? Yeah. I love her so much. Where's she from? So she lives in New York. She's and she's a social activist filmmaker. She'd be great to have come and speak to. Well, she's going to do a seminar next summer. Oh, great. Does that have some of this one? I mean, I had speakers lined up before this season started for next year. So, Abby just agreed yesterday. Jennifer, she's on this one, so I'm talking about her new film about masculinity. Wow. Heavy. The guy who runs most of the Smithsonian museums is going to come out and talk about and maybe bring some items from the Smithsonian that shaped American history. There's somebody else I can't think.
One more minute left for this one. All right, last one. How might we encourage entrepreneurship within informal settlements? So consider different financing options, education or training opportunities, and different incentives for entrepreneurship. So this is your last brainstorm before we move on to prototyping. So another 7 minutes.
But you're right in one sense. We want to protect it with the freedom of individual leaders or whatever it is. We want to protect the integrity of all of those out of the box, wild, wonderful things, disclosure stuff that we can say. Corn and all other
The big businesses, recycling businesses, composting businesses.
plants and flowers, but they generates good flowers, orchids.
They don't take advantage of scale. There's no economy of scale. There's no idea of so it's like with the British school. It's not actually a franchise wholly owned, but we run the P&L. It's going to be wealthy. Right.
Another 2 minutes.
No, if your ultimate job is as long as you don't destroy the sense of the community. Especially. I mean, I get a little bit of my hair goes up when I go into some favelas in Rio that are starting to get the same shops around the same franchise. That's what I say. True, but then it became a market. Then it became a complete market and gentrified, and the guys are going to be out. And you have people buying up the edges of the market. Right? That's happening.
One more minute. Get those ideas out. Alrighty. Well done, you guys. Most groups got into drawing, and you definitely all filled up your board. This is exactly what we had hoped you'd do over the last 3 rounds of ideation. So here's what you're going to do next. Every table, hello. Every table has stars. These stars are votes. Every person at your table, I recommend, get 3 votes. And vote on the ideas that you're most excited by, that you feel like have a real chance of solving some of the problems and challenges that were brought up by the experts. So 3 votes, and the whole point of this is that you're going to try to land on one idea that you're going to take forward. Now, here's a little way to make that easier. You can combine ideas. You can stitch them together to make the things that are most popular. If they can be stitched together to make one big idea, that's the idea I recommend you take forward. Okay? So start voting, land on one idea you're going to further evolve.
This is just general franchise, or because it was then water kiosks, the whole list. The potential franchises here is, and even the schools is really franchise model. So you get all those come out of yeah. So
You've only got about 2 more minutes to figure this out. One more minute to land on that big idea. Can you hold this up first? Yeah.
Well, you know what I would
Fifteen seconds. Okay. Now that you're in agreement on the idea that's going to be your focus for the next 12 minutes, here's what you're going to do. Can I have your attention, please? This is where you're going to refine your idea, and I recommend that you use this worksheet. Everybody has one. It's in your materials. And what you're going to do up here is you're going to give it a name or a title. Don't overthink it. Just something that somewhat describes what this idea is. Give it a brief description. And this is what we call a concept journey. And this is your idea from when it first gets launched, and maybe a little bit about how it gets launched, to the impact you ultimately want it to have, and a few milestones that you're going to note along the way. And then this space down here is where you're going to get visual. You're going to bring your idea to life in a visually compelling way. And we're going to show you some examples from yesterday. So this was in a conversation about mobile phones that were relevant to women. And this is about a phone that had all kinds of content that was already delivered on it when the phone arrived. And it was relevant to mom because she could manage her shopping list and groceries on it. It was relevant to grandpa because it would remind him about his medications and his doctor's appointments. It was relevant to the kids because it had education games on it. So this is the level of creativity that we're looking for. It doesn't have to be quality artistic drawings, but some kind of visual representation. I'll just show you one more. There's plenty of construction paper, scissors, and tape. This is a prototype phone. This is called the Wonder Phone, and these are all the amazing things that it does. Family planning, and a light, and a rape whistle. You get the idea. So we are looking for you guys to spend the next 12 minutes bringing your idea to life. And some further consideration as you do this is think about how you're going to explain to us how this solves the problem at hand. Who will actually benefit from your idea? And how you're going to deliver this solution to the people you're trying to help. And lastly, how it's going to be sustainable, both from a management standpoint and a financial standpoint. So you have 12 minutes, and then we're going to share with the group. Okay? Ready, go.
You guys have 5 more minutes, so let's see construction paper, scissors, tape out, building different concepts, sketching those journeys, divide and conquer on your production now, because you just have a few more minutes till you're going to share it with everyone.
So can I tell you the idea I have for the next interaction with the IDEO fellows? So I asked Jessie to make sure that there are as many core team members as there are fellows. She doesn't know why. We're going to go on a hike, and I'm going to pair a fellow with a core team member. And on the first part of the journey, one of them will be blindfolded, and the other one will be. And then midway, they're going to switch. And it's going to be all about a journey of talking about reliance and trust and leadership and following and communication.
Nice. That's great.
I wanted to warn you just in case you were thinking about coming.
I think that's great. Yeah, do you want, Fred and I will be around that week. Do you want us to
Great,
hang out
I'd
there?
love it if you want to, but I just wanted you to know what's going to happen.
The only thing, because we have more than 7 core team members that could come, so I kind of don't want to take their spots if we can.
Uh-huh. Yeah, whatever you, the other thought is that it doesn't have to be an equal number and that we could have more core team. And I could probably stand to have you figure out who would be best paired with one another.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, though.
It's not gonna be
We also
easy.
talked about doing vulnerability in this session. Do we want to do, or is that part of that? And do we
Certainly
want to have them,
vulnerability will be addressed.
do we want to have them read, we're going to have them read a chapter from that book,
Oh,
Being Wrong, which I've bought, but I haven't read yet.
oh, good. I need to read it.
Yeah,
Why don't
or
we
could
both
do
read
that-
it and
yeah.
see if it
Or we
feels...
could do it for January, or whenever the next one is, December, January.
Will you tell me what would be, because it'd be great if we could do a whole session on that, because I think that's really important. But would it be too late to do Being Wrong third round?
I don't think so, because there's not tension right now.
Okay.
You know, they're not sick of working with each other yet. Vulnerability is really good when you're getting frustrated with people, right?
Great. Being
So, yeah,
Wrong
let's
and
do that.
vulnerability.
Okay, but we'll both read it for January.
Great. January. And we did something else that seemed relevant to that time frame too. I can't remember what it was. I'll look at my notes.
Okay. All right, you guys have 2 more minutes to finish up before you present your ideas with the rest of the group.
I'm going to check on them real quick. All right, 30 seconds. So figure out who's going to share your idea and get ready to figure out what you're presenting.
Great.
I might have something to share about that at the end, and I'll also keep an eye out for groups that look like that.
All right, we're going to wrap up. We have 13 minutes for you guys to share. So, want to hear who wants to share first. Guys, we're going to wrap up. Sorry to stop you, but we're finished with this piece. Guys, Martin Fisher. All right. So we're going to start over here with Cameron. Cameron, can you guys stand up and show us what you've made visually, and tell us your idea?
You have to deliver this as an undertaker.
And sorry, you have 2 minutes or less to share.
I need an undertaker's hat, but that's a coffin. And a lot of ideas.
Can you give him the mic?
We're gonna. The name of the pledge is "You can't take it with you," and what we have designed is a sustainably built coffin. The problem being, Chris and the whole team began to talk about the issue of the amount of money that's spent in informal settlements on funerals, and to divert the cost of funeral costs towards the future generation. So the idea that we have is to kind of create kind of the idea of taking kind of the burial insurance cost or extortion, as if you've seen the amount of money people spend towards youth upliftment, and that on burial of said person, instead of spending so much on the services, a series of funds would go to the kids, to the families, for education and social improvement and social entrepreneurship and so forth. Did we get it pretty close? Yeah, and then that pledge would go every year to celebrate the passing of that person. So the idea of creating new cultures around death that is actually a celebration, and it kind of engages the future generations.
An efficient new service.
Oh, and we would have an efficient burial service. This actually could be a for-profit business within these informal settlements. But did we get everything?
Great. So job creation, ways to save money, ways to bring community together. Sounds like you guys have it all in that solution. Nice work. It is a killer idea. If anyone wants to fund that, go over and talk to this table over here. All right. Who wants to share next? All right.
Hello. Okay, so what we came up with is a mobile phone survey platform for inclusive communities. And we realized that while private companies really want to move into the slums and they see them as economic opportunities, the opportunity is really not recognized because there's no data. So we've decided to train members of the community to collect the data from that community, and that's demographic information and also economic information, such as what jobs they can do and what they can offer. And then we would mine that data and somehow turn it into an opportunity, connect them to companies, give it to governments, and connect them to markets. Is there anything I left out? Is that good? Okay. Oh, and the title is Survey Platforms for Inclusive Communities. Oh, data mine. What? Data mines. Oh, I get it now. Okay.
Nice. So an idea that connects with how we might understand informal settlements better, how they might be a part of designing their own solutions, how we can connect them to one another and to ourselves, and opportunities for making money as well. So nice work, team. Who else wants to share? All right.
Okay, our concept title is a slum map, and what we're trying to do is to get slums mapped and to get all the businesses, all the schools and hospitals mapped onto the thing, and then onto a web app or an SMS app. So for anyone in the slums who has a smartphone, they can access our application through the web. This is a map and there's some locations on this. And for SMSs, they can get directions through landmarks. And for us, this is important, and it can be very useful because it can help businesses and other people in the slums to connect with each other. And also, maybe that venture, they will need us, so they can pay us to use our mapping system. So whenever someone says, I can do this job, they can be put on our map.
Great, nice. So that actually could connect with the survey tool, it sounds like, to get even more information about slum communities to help us better design for them and with them. So great, another killer idea. Thank you.
We can sell you the software.
All right, last but not least.
Okay, so unfortunately we don't have a pen that you can actually see what we drew here, but the idea is a franchise incubator or kiosk. We want to create a lot of jobs for a lot of people, and that means creating a lot of businesses. And there already are a lot of informal businesses, but they generally are profitable but providing pretty bad goods and services, so we want to upgrade that through a franchise model, but actually create an incubator to create franchises. And the idea would be you would have an incubator or kiosk, franchise incubator or kiosk, which would be maybe a physical center, maybe not a physical place, but it would be funded by businesses, local businesses, who would say, okay, yes, we want to help with volunteers and with money to create new franchises that can work in the slums. And maybe also with public money and public money and investors could come in as well and say, we want to put some money in. And at this center, you would have a kit of how do you go about setting up a franchise business. So it's a kit for doing that. There's training, there's mentoring, and there's money. Entrepreneurs who have ideas would apply to the center and say, look, I want to do a franchise for hairdressers. I want to do a franchise for schools. I want to do a franchise for recycling. I want to do a franchise for whatever it is, or water kiosks. They would apply to this center. There would be a selection process. Those 3 or 4 who really got it would then get all this mentoring and the training and the money. They would be taught how to establish a franchise. And the idea then would be they would go out with support from the center and these investors to establish a franchise kit which they could then give off and create dozens and dozens of small businesses now doing these things. And so we want a timeline. We said, okay, 5 years, establish 4 different franchise businesses with 100, let's say 100 businesses who are now benefiting as from those franchises.
Awesome. Nice. So great idea in terms of providing new services for people, entrepreneurial opportunities, and building economies in these informal settlements. So thank you. Give yourselves all a round of applause for some great ideas.
Well done, you guys. Might I suggest that the burial service be one of the first franchises? There's a lot of potential cross-pollination here. If you guys are interested in further developing any of these ideas, please put your name and contact information on the back of your worksheets, and CGI will follow up with you. And if you'd like to continue discussing it either with someone at your table or someone at another table, please be sure to share contact information. Thank you to our speakers for providing such wonderful inspiration, and thank you for you guys for all leaning in. I need to have us clear out the room fairly quickly because we need to set up for yet another design lab.
And so there is another design lab on youth entrepreneurship following this, and one tomorrow afternoon on waste.
Please join us. Thank you.